So guys, today I wanted to talk about Crohn's disease abscesses and Hidradenitis suppurativa, which is essentially the same thing from what I can tell. It's basically when you get these painful spots in your skin that fill with pus, and sometimes they can leak. They will leak over time, and which actually makes things feel a lot better, I'll say, but it's also very painful. And it's such a debilitating problem, and it's something that I've had since I was a kid with Crohn's disease. And it wasn't until recently, like literally like a week ago, that I found out what the name of this thing was. And I'm surprised I hadn't really heard it before. And now, thanks to the internet, of course, I was able to figure out what to do in order to prevent it or to help heal things up and make things better. But first, I wanted to talk about kind of what causes it and kind of how it's related to Crohn's disease. So from my understanding, having leaky gut, which is caused by eating a bad diet and can also be made worse by taking antibiotics, which, as a kid, of course, I had all sorts of antibiotics. And then, eating a diet very high in processed foods that are tough on the gut led to me having a leaky gut, which then led to my immune system acting up, having inflammation, leading to inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease. And, one of the parts of having Crohn's disease is that you can get these abscesses, whether that's on your butt or other areas. For me, I've had it on a mix of spots, and it's painful and uncomfortable. And it's because of a overgrowth of bad yeast, from my understanding. I don't know the exact name of the yeast, but that's a video I was watching was talking about that. And I'll link some videos down below that I did watch that gave me some better information on this issue. But I just wanted to talk about it since, it's such a debilitating problem that I'm really hoping that by sharing this information, I can at least help some people who might be having it. So yeah, that's kind of like the rundown of what causes it. And basically, like, when you eat foods that cause the yeast to get worse, or you introduce more yeast into your body, like, then it causes your immune system to activate even more, making the spots worse. And it makes so much sense now, because I realized I had to be so careful with my diet. I've had to be so careful with my diet, and there's so many different foods that trigger my issue and make it worse. And like watching videos talking about this, it all started to make sense now. There was a couple things I needed to take out of my diet, but I was doing things overall pretty well, but I was close, but I wasn't perfect. And now that I know what to do, I feel like I'm much better set up for dealing with this issue finally. But yeah, these spots can be painful, and they can lead to you needing surgery to get, the spots drained. It's such a nightmare. I had one of them drained recently, and it was really not a fun experience, and healing took a while. And I was off work, and yeah, it sucked. So anyways, what I'm doing to help with this issue is I'm trying to, first of all, help with healing my leaky gut up and, reducing my inflammation, or keeping my inflammation low in the meantime too, while my gut's healing up. And trying to make my gut microbiome better at the same time, as well as making sure that I'm not feeding my gut with any, or trying my best to avoid feeding my gut with any foods that will exacerbate this issue. So yeah, there's a huge list of foods that they recommended avoiding, and I just want to bring it up here. So let's see. So they recommend staying away from yeast and wheat and dairy, and fermented foods. I guess since those probably would have some yeast in it since it's fermented. No nightshade vegetables, since those, will make your leaky gut worse. They recommend avoiding fruit. I think specifically like high sugary fruits and dried fruits, since dried fruits can apparently have yeast on the outside of it, which I didn't know was a thing. All right, guys. Hey, so I actually did want to add in, just for context. So I recently actually cut out all fruits from my diet. It was really the last thing that was holding me back, was like, I had this craving for fruits. And since I've been holding off on it, I've been noticing better success with dealing with these abscesses. I've had less pain. They haven't gotten worse. I can tell that, it feels to me like they're healing up. Like, at least they're getting better, I should say. Whereas when I was having fruit, it would always cause these spots to get worse. And it kind of confirms to me that it was like it's like a related to a fungus thing, because from the videos that I was watching, basically like if you're very sensitive to sugary food, then it's more likely a fungus issue. Whereas if you're having issues with more like high fiber foods, then it's more of a bacterial issue. So for me, I think my gut issues is more of a fungus issue, having these spots and having the food sensitivity and also the Crohn's disease. Yeah, versus like a bacterial issue. Citrus fruits, vinegar, soy sauce. I'll link a video down below that I found where they did talk about it more, which was like, but that's all the stuff from the video as far as I know. And I also can confirm that I've basically had issues with like all of these things that I've tried as well. I mean, from my personal experience, my list of foods that I tolerate is very small. That's why I'm eating a mainly, meat and, cooked veggie diet. Oh, hey guys. So yeah, I did. So I was doing mainly carnivore. And I still think that's a good balance, but I haven't taken out veggies entirely from my diet. Like, with the lack of fruit now in my diet, having veggies kind of helps to tie me over better. So I wanted to mention, so like specifically cruciferous veggies or like dark leafy greens are also supposed to be pretty good for you that are well cooked. Because that'll help, reduce any bloating and also make it easier for your body to digest and have less impact on your gut. So yeah, when I do eat, I do keep a lower veggie amount and more so meat, I'd say. Because I did actually have like a bit more veggies with another meal the other day, a bit too much, and it did make me feel worse, I found. So I'm trying to limit how much veggies I have on my plate, but still having some there just to keep me, more full and help with digestion. But yeah, keeping it carnivore focused. Like today I had some ground beef and some cabbage, which I thought was pretty good. I try not to go too heavy on the cabbage just because, I know these veggies can kind of cause a bit of gassiness for me, which can kind of, lead to a bit of bloating and maybe feeling a bit uncomfortable. So, like a mix of meat and veggies, but more so focused on the meat, I would say. And I've been seeing progress. Things have been improving. It's going to sound gross, but I was having some diarrhea, which has actually been getting better from what I can tell. And also the spots have been manageable. They haven't been getting really bad from what I can tell. There's been a little bit of up and down, a bit of figuring things out, but overall pretty good. And hopefully, as things get better, allowing me to eat more foods again that I enjoy. So yeah, besides mainly, eating meat and veggies and not having any sort of fruit, I've also been taking some supplements as well. So I've been taking a garlic supplement every day, in order to help, get rid of the this fungus problem that I got going on in my gut, which I have a feeling was likely due to me being on antibiotics for so many years. Anyways, yeah, so between that and, avoiding the carbs in the diet, I think it's been helping to manage that a lot better, which is good. And also just making sure I control my inflammation. So I've been taking vitamin D and I'm been trying to be extra diligent with it because I've noticed when when I'm making sure that I'm taking a proper like 40,000 or 50,000 international units a day, I'm feeling better. So yeah, like 40,000 to 50,000 international units of vitamin D per day. And I take around 200 milligrams of magnesium. I took 400 today, but I felt kind of lightheaded. Might also be because I'm quite skinny right now, like with the way I'm eating. So I think maybe just one of those magnesium biglycinate pills a day is better than two. But I had a whole nother video where I did talk about what I'm doing to keep my inflammation low. So I also take a couple fish oil pills a day, like between 2 to 3. And I find that at night, actually, the fish oil is more helpful because it really just helps to reduce my inflammation and any pain that I'm having. Definitely pretty helpful. So on top of those, keeping my inflammation low and taking the garlic to help, get rid of the fungus, I'm also taking a probiotic pill, around 10 billion. I try to take it like once or twice a day. And the probiotic does actually help me feel better. I did kind of notice I felt like the spots get a bit worse when I take it. So I don't know. I feel like I try to limit how much I take, but at the same time, it's helpful. So, and they say you'll see a benefit after like a couple months or so of taking it. So, but overall, it does help me feel better, and it does. And I think that's the thing that does help with like me having looser stools. Like I'm trying to make things more solid, and I think the probiotics do help with that from the reading I've done and from my experience. And so on top of those supplements, I do take L-glutamine in a powdered form. And I take between 10 to 15 grams per day of that from like a jar. And it's, yeah, I think it's been good. That actually helps my gut feel much more relieved. So I try to make sure I'm diligent to take that every day because it does actually make a difference for me. And it's supposed to be one of the best supplements in terms of helping heal leaky gut up. Actually, there's a couple of things I wanted to mention in terms of routine as well. I try to do a bit of intermittent fasting. So I try to stop eating around, let's say like 8 o'clock, ideally, I guess. And then I don't eat again until around 10 or 11. I do still take supplements in between that time. Just because, you know, keeping the inflammation low is helpful. Because sometimes my inflammation goes up at night. And on top of that, also trying to get exercise during the day. You know, I try to go for walks and get sun, and it just feels good and it helps me feel better. You know, that vitamin D is really good for you from the sun, and getting up and moving helps, you know, things not get stuck in your system. It helps everything flow better, which also helps, you know, with reducing the bacteria and fungus in your gut. Yeah, it overall just helps, and I feel better after getting up and walking around. Totally. So if you're capable of that, you know, I know the spots can kind of hurt sometimes, but if you can, you know, at least walk around a bit and get some sun, it does make a noticeable difference in my opinion. One more thing that I wanted to mention actually is getting a good night's rest. This is something that I honestly need to improve myself. Sleeping is really important for recovery. And as my symptoms have been improving, it's been easier for me to get a good night's sleep. I can say, you know, previously I used to wake up in the middle of the night having bad stomach pain, and having to use the washroom. But as I've been figuring things out, when I took the fruit out of my diet, like things started to get better. So yeah, you know, I hope this can give you some hope too if you're not in a very good state right now. For me, I was in a pretty bad state like a few months ago. But yeah, I can happily say that I am feeling significantly better. Still, you know, not the best, not great, but like better than before. So it feels good. Of course, I'll probably share more in the future as things change with what I'm doing. But yeah, hey, if you found it to be helpful, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And yeah, I just want to grow this page, you know, and discuss gut health and Crohn's disease. Yeah. Anyways, guys, you guys can click up here to check out my recent video where I was talking about keeping my inflammation low. And just want to say thank you guys all so much for watching, and hope you guys all stay healthy. All right, I'll catch you later. Johnny, signing out.